Hello friends, in this small tutorial, I will teach you how to build this particular SQLite Database Viewer WinForm application. So in this application, you can open a SQLite database and display its content on the table that is this section right below. I will show you how this thing works and I will teach you how to program this particular application. So first we check for select database, that will be this one. And from there, you can take a SQLite database. So this is a sample database that I am providing with you. You can download that from our GitHub. So you can click it here. You can press open. Then it will show the path. This is the path. And it will show the name of the database also. Now you will load the data inside the SQLite database. So you can load it by pressing the load SQLite data button. So it will load this particular data and it will show all the data. This is the SQL query that we are executing, and this is the connection string. Now in the coming tutorial, I will teach you how to build this particular WinForm application, and I will also give you a basic idea about SQLite database access using the WinForms API. You can find all the required links on the application itself. So you can check out our online website tutorial from right here. You click it here, it will take you to the tutorial that is available on our website. You can also download our code from here and you can also read it. Now you can also download the source code from here or from our GitHub repo. You can click it here and this will take you to your GitHub repo. Now if you want pre-built exe files, you can find it under the releases tag. So from here you can find So this one is the simple executable. That is the one that we are executing. This will run directly from the folder. The other one is called as a setup installer, and it can install the exe file directly into a computer, just like the other installer packages. The two executable file, including the setup file, was created using Visual Studio publish command. Now, if you are looking for an in-depth tutorial on SQLite CRUD operations using C#, we already have a video on our YouTube channel. This is a video, and I will provide a link to this one. Now, if you like our tutorial, please do like, comment, and subscribe. This helps a lot, and it also helps us with the algorithm. Now, if you have any doubts, you can comment it in the comment section. I try to reply to most of them. Now we are going to create a Visual Studio project for our C# SQLite project. Now you can go to create new project here. Now I will be creating a WinForm project to communicate with the SQLite database. So we'll select the language as C#, this one, and the platform will be Windows because WinForm is not supported in other platforms. And we'll be using the desktop version because we have to create a desktop app. So we will get this one. This is the Windows Form app. We also have Windows Form app for the .NET framework. That is the second one. So I'll be going for the first one because we have to target the .NET platform, which is the latest one. Well, this is the legacy one. So we'll click on this one and click next. So you can give it a name and a location to store your repo. So I will name it SQLite Connection. Now I will use the location here and then press next. We'll use the .NET 8.0 long-term support version. Now the IDE has finished loading and now we are ready to develop our C# SQLite WinForms project. So before we start on SQLite, we need to install the required libraries like System.Data.SQlite.Core, which will contain all the methods and classes that are useful for accessing the SQLite 3 database. So for that, we have to use the NuGet package manager. So you have to go to tools, this one. And from here, you have to get the NuGet package manager and then manage NuGet packages for solution. Now you will see this particular window here. Now go to browse tab here, click on that one. You need to have internet for this one. And then you can type the required library here. So I will type System.Data.SQlite. So we have two. One is the System.Data.SQlite, this one, and the other one is System.Data.SQlite.Core. We will be using the core version here. You can also use the System.Data.SQlite. If you have checked my previous tutorial, I have used the first one there. Now I'll be using the second one. The second one is basically a stripped down version, while the System.Data.SQlite, it contains support for link and entity framework, which we will not be using here. So we will go for the System.Data.SQlite.Core. This is the one. So you can click on that one. Tick this one. That is the name of your project. Then press install. So it will start installing. You can see the output here. Now click on apply and the system is now installed. You can see that green arrow here. You can also go here installed and you can see that System.Data.SQlite.Core is installed on our system. Now we can use this one. You can close this one. Now we are going to build a WinForm application that is used for connecting with the SQLite database. So this is the form and we are going to change the name of this form. Here it is, the default will be form 1. So we can change it by going to properties of the form 1. You can click on the form 1, then go to properties, and here you can see something called as text, this one, and here you can change the name. So I'm going to change it as SQLite Database Viewer. So now we can see the name has changed here also. You can run this particular form by going to this button, that is start without debugging, Control plus F5. So if I run this thing, it will show a basic window. Now we have to add some basic Windows controls like buttons, text boxes, etc., so that our application is complete. For that, you can go to View, and from here you can find the toolbox, that is Control Alt plus X. And from here you can find the basic Windows controls like button, checkbox, etc. You can also see the code behind the form by right clicking on this and you're looking at View Code. So when we add more and more controls to the form 1, all the code controlling that particular controls will be inside this form1.cs. So if we add a button, the button click event will be inside the form1.cs file. So we'll go to the design mode, that is this one, and we will add a button. So I'll go to view and I'll take the toolbox. So I won't need a button, that will be this one. I'm going to draw it here. I also want a text box and we'll arrange it like this. Now we'll rename the button to Select Database. Now you have to click on the button. Then you can go to the text version. So you can see it's button 1. You have to change that to Select Database. So this button is used to select the particular SQLite database which we want to load. Once that is completed, the path to that particular database will be displayed on this particular text box. Then we will connect with the selected database. So you can click on the button and we can see from here, the name of the button is button 1. So you can change that to button underscore select. Here we are changing the name of the design name. So there will not be any change on the name of the text on the button. So if I double click on this one, it will generate a button click event. And the name of that button click event will be button underscore select underscore database. So I'll show it here. I have clicked on the. So you can see that this particular method is button underscore select underscore database underscore click. If you have not changed the name, it will be something called button 1 underscore click. So in this way, we will know which button does which part of the operation. That's why I have renamed the button. You can also change the name of the text box also. So I'll come here. So no need to add any text inside the text box. So we'll go to design. That will be this one. And the name is text box 1. So I'll change that to text box underscore database underscore path. So this text box will show the full path of the database. I'm going to add a label also. So you can go to toolbox, click on this one, and I will change the label to not the design name, the text. So instead of label 1, I will name it full path. So we have 2 text boxes right now. So once you select the database, the full path will be shown here, and the name of the database will be shown here. So I'll rename this one as the file name textbox as textbox underscore database name. It will just show the name of the database, the selected database. Now the plan is that when we double click on the select database button, that will be this one, or an open file dialog will come up, and using that particular open file dialog, we will select our database and its data will be shown in the SQLite database viewer. So we'll double click on the select database button. So we'll write some code here to generate an open file dialog. So we'll use the open file dialog, this one, to create a open database file dialog object. Now when we open the dialog, we can set the default directory in which the dialog is opened. So for that one, we can use the open database file dialog. This is the object. So we will use the initial directory. So I want the file to open the in the current directory. So I will use the environment current directory. So when we open the dialog, it will first show the files in the current directory. Then if you want, you can navigate it from other places. You can also give a specific directory. If you want to give a specific directory like the temp or something like that, this method is also allowed. So I will use the other one because I want to open the whole thing inside the current directory. Now we have to create the dialog. So for that, you have to use the show dialog method. Now I'm going to run this one. Now if I click the select database, the dialog will be open. So you can find that the dialog is actually showing the files inside the current directory. So it's this one, bin debug /net 8.0 Windows. You can see the executable. So it's the current directory right here. So I don't have any database right now, so it won't work. So I'll just call the cancel. So you can also change the heading, that is the name of this particular dialog also. Here it is showing open. You can give it any name like open the SQLite database or something like that by changing the. Now the title of the dialog will be it is open a SQLite database. Now I have created this string variable. This will be used to store the complete path of the database. So we will use an if loop. If open database file dialog is equal to dialog result dot okay. Then we will get the full file name, and then you can show that in the text box. So I'll put it here. So I'll show the full path name here. So we will now get the name of the text box. That's the design name. So we'll take that one. So we'll run it once more. Now let's just select one file from here. So you can see that the full file name is here. So the system has taken the full file name and it's showing on the text box. So that is this part of the code. So it's checking whether the dot show dialog method is it returning dialog result dot okay. That means if you press the open button, the output will be dialog result dot okay. So if it is okay, then it will take the path from the open database file dialog dot file name. This will give the full path, that is a string, and store it in this particular variable. And I'm just giving that particular variable into the text box database path dot text. So we are displaying the full path of the database. So we don't have a database right now. You have to download it from my GitHub repo. So we'll do that later. Now I also want to show the name of the file also. So I'll use this one. So the design name is this one. We come here. So we have to use something called as a path dot get file name. This will return a file name if you give it a what we can say a complete path. So we already have the path here. So we'll just give it this path to get file name. So it will just show the file name, selected file name. So I'll run it again. So I'll go here. I'll just select this DLL file. So you can see that the name of the file is here. This is the full path name. The reason why we are generating the full path is that we have to create a connection string to the SQLite database. Now for our tutorial, I have created a sample database. So you can view the sample database inside our GitHub repo. So you can go to that particular repo. This is the name of the repo. So the link is in the description. So you can get it from there. So you can download that from here. So using this download raw file, you can download it. So I'm going to download this particular one and I will store it inside our project. So you can see the sample database here. So you can open it and the path is here and the name is here. Now this is called as a DB browser for SQLite. It's a free tool which you can download from the internet. The link is in the description too. So using this particular software, you can see what is inside the sample database. So I have downloaded the database inside the project folder. So it's inside bin debug net 8.0 Windows. So this is the file. So you can open this file using the SQLite, DB browser for SQLite. So you can open database, give the path here, open. From here you can see what's inside the file. So it has a table called as customers. So if you are not sure how this particular database works, I have given a detailed explanation of how to create the table using C# programmatically. That is a command line program. If you want, you can check it out. That link to that particular tutorial is also in the description. So you can go from database structure to browse data. So this is the data that is contained inside the sample database. It's basically an ID, name, age, date of birth, email, which is basically string, and price. That's actually floating point number. So this data will be displayed inside our Windows form. We need to use a control called as DataGridView. That is this one. This is the DataGridView control that we'll be using to load and display the data from the SQLite database. So we'll create another button called as load database contents. And then when we press that particular button, we will connect with the SQLite database and load all the data. So we will just create another button. We'll just copy this particular button. So I'm giving it the name load SQLite data. Now we have to change the name also here. That's the design name. So we'll call it as button. So the name is button underscore load underscore SQLite data. Now to connect with an SQLite database, you need to create something called as a connection string. So I'll create another text box to display the particular connection string. To create the connection string, we need to get the full path to that or particular database. So here we'll be using the OpenFileDialog box to get that particular path. Then we will use that particular path to create the connection string. I'll also create another text box for displaying the SQL command that is going to be executed to display that data. So we will create two text boxes. I'll make this read only. I'll also make the other one read only. You can't enter anything into this particular box. This is to display the string for debug purpose only. So when you are running this code, you will know what the code you are executing or what the connection string you are executing. So you can actually remove this if you don't want it, but this is for learning purpose. So I'll put this thing here. So we have to rename the text box also. So I'll give the design name something like textbox1. So this will be, we'll call it textbox underscore database connection string. The other one I'll call it as textbox underscore SQL query executed. So this will show the SQL query that will be executed to get the data from the database. So usually it will be select star from table name. So that will be that. And then now we have to create the data grid view. So you can go to data, that is this one, and you can get the data grid view. So you can put here and you can So the data will be displayed in this particular view. So we'll be putting all the code that is required for displaying the data inside the event handler of this button click event. So we'll double click on this one and we'll go to the code for this one. So all the code will be inside this one. So here we'll be displaying all the contents of the particular table. So I will use something like select star from table name. So here our table is called customers. So I will use the customers. So this is the query that will be executed. Now this is the basic format of the connection string that we are going to execute. So we have the data source equal to, that is the name of the database that we want to connect to. If the database is inside the same directory as the executable, you can just give the name of the database. So if it is not there, you have to give the full path. The other thing is that this parameter fail if missing equal to true. If this parameter is not present, then whenever we connect to a database and the database is not there, the system will create a new empty database. So we don't want to create a new empty one. We have to connect with an existing one. And if the existing one is not there, we have to say it is not there. We don't want to create a new one. So we will be using this particular parameter, fail if missing equal to true. So we already want to get the full path name. So you can use this particular string, SQLite database path. So this will contain the full database path provided by the dialog button. So when we first load the dialog, we will get the full path. So we'll have to provide this here. So we'll use the dollar operator, get this one, SQLite database path, and put it here. Now we will also display that particular path inside our form. We have to display it on the connection string text box. We'll also display the SQL query that will be executed here also. So for that, now we'll run this thing. Now we'll select the database first. So we'll get the path. This is the full path. And we also get the name here. Now we'll click the load SQLite data. We won't be loading any data. We'll just display the connection string and the SQL query. So we get the full connection string, that is data source is equal to path to our SQLite database and fail if missing equal to true. Now we'll use this particular connection string to open a connection. Now that we have created the database connection string, we will connect with our sample database. So for that, we'll be using a class called as SQLite connection, and then we'll create an object called as my connection. So in the constructor of the SQLite connection, we have to give the database connection string. Then it will connect. So when we run this particular code, it will create a connection with our sample database, and we'll try to open a connection using the open method. So if it's successful, we have the connection to the SQLite database open, and we can do a lot of operation on that, like reading and writing into that particular database. So if there is no issue, the whole thing will open. So if the connection is successful, nothing will happen. If the connection is not successful, an exception will happen. So we have to enclose the myConnection.open inside an exception handler. Now I'm not going to do that because I want to make the code simple so that you can understand the basic idea. If you are not familiar with the SQLite connection class, I have another tutorial on my YouTube channel. This one where we teach how to connect with an SQLite database using that particular class. Here all the code is written in command line so that you can easily understand the basic concepts behind this one, and you can check it out if you're not familiar with this. If you're okay with this, you can follow the WinForms tutorial. Now here we are going to learn how to display the data present inside an SQLite database on a Windows phone. For displaying the data, we need to be aware of three classes. First one is known as the SQLiteDataAdapter. It is provided by the System.Data.SQlite library. The other one is the data table, and the third one is the data grid view. We have already used the data grid view on our Windows phone when we pulled it out from the toolbox. So the important thing we have to look is the main class we have to understand is the SQLiteDataAdapter class. Now, this is the SQLiteDataAdapter class. It provides like a bridge between the SQLite database and the data table. The data table is a class which is used to represent the database in memory. So what actually happens is that when we use the SQLite data adapter and we give it a specific connection name and an SQLite command, for example, select star from table name, then the data adapter will run that command on the database here, and then the data that is returned by the database is stored inside this particular class and is used to fill the data table. Then you can use the data table to populate the data grid view. That is the WinForm control that is used to display the data. So when we want to write some data back into the database, we can also use the SQLite data adapter. Here we make modification to the data table and you can send that data back into the SQLite database using the SQLite DataAdapter class. Now before doing anything, we have to open a connection to the SQLite database. Now we'll create the SQLite DataAdapter class. For that we will be using the using statement. Now we have to give the query which we want to execute to get the data from the SQLite database. So the first parameter will be the query. So we already have the query, that will be this one. So we'll be selecting all the customers. We'll copy this one. Then we also need a connection, that will be this one. Now we need to create a data table which is used for holding our data in memory. So we create the data table by using the data table class. Now we need to get all the data that is returned by the database after it has run the SQL query. So for that one, we have to use the .fill method of the data adapter. So you can get data adapter here. Then you can use the .fill and give the data table here. Now all the data that is returned by the SQL query will be filled inside the data table. Now you can use this data table to fill our data grid view. Once the data adapter had filled all the data inside the data table, we can give that particular data table as data source to the data grid one dot data source. This is the name of the data grid, that is this particular one. So I'm going to run this code. So from here, so we'll select the database first. Then I'll press the load SQLite data button. That will create the connection string and open a connection to this particular database, this one, and then display the data in this particular data grid view. So I'll press this one and you can see the data here. So here I'm using the SQL query, select star from customer. That means all the columns will be selected. You can also change it later. I mean, this is just for debugging purpose, so you can't change it from here. You have to go inside the code and change it. So I'll change it. So I will only select ID and name from customer. That is the name of the table that we are using in the sample database. So as you can see from here, only the ID, name are selected and is displayed on the data grid view. In this way, you can display what is required on the SQLite Database Viewer. Now I will teach you how to use this code to open other database tables. So first we have to know what all tables are present inside that particular database. So for that you have to use a software called as DB browser, which will show you all the tables inside the database. So I will use that particular one. So we have something called as World Development Indicators from Kaggle. So I will open this particular SQLite database. As you can see, there are different tables here, country nodes like that. So now we will display this particular table on our SQLite data viewer. So from database structure, we can know the name of the table is country. So we'll use that name here. So select star from country. Now we'll run the code. Now we'll go for select database. So this is our sample database, but that we are not going to use. We are going to open the other one. So we'll go to desktop, world development indicators, and from here you can find the WDL database. So open. So we have the full path here and the name. This is the WDL database. So you can use the load SQL data. And as you can see, all the data inside this particular SQLite database is displayed on our form. So you can browse it like this. So this can be used to do a lot of other things. You can change the code to suit your own requirements. So this is how you display the data from a particular SQL database on a Windows form. The code is available on GitHub, which you can freely download and use. I also have an exe file that you can download it from the release section of the GitHub. So you can modify this particular code to suit your own needs.